Welcome, folks. Tonight is Monday, August 23rd, 2010. This is a public hearing for the City of Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals. We have several matters on the agenda tonight. We just ask that anybody wishing to address the board, please sign in at the podium. And so we don't have to interrupt you, state your name and your address for the record. Everything's being recorded, so we do need that information before we can allow you to start speaking. We're going to take the items in the same order that they're printed on the agenda. The first one is a continuance. This is a matter that's been continued several times. It's ZB 2009-45, special permit telecommunications. The applicant is Clear Wireless LLC. The property address is 403 Andover Street, and the petition is for an installation of telecommunication panels, antennas, 3 of them, dish antennas, 2, and related equipment inside a steeple, stealth steeple housing and related equipment on the side of a church for Clear Wireless, according to section 7.6 of the zoning ordinance code. Would an applicant of Clear Wireless please address the board? Welcome, sir. Ladies, I'm sorry, the way it works, the applicant goes first, and then we open it up to the public hearing.
Hello, my name's David Archambault. I represent Clearwire. This thing's loud. There seems to be a little miscommunication on our side. We're here for 2 hearings, and next one down in new business also. But we were under the impression that we were here for 141 Marginal Street today. So I'm not sure about the 403 Andover Street. If there's stuff that I can answer, I'd be certainly more than happy to answer it, but
Well, let me ask you this, just because there might be some confusion on with the board as well. We put this on tonight as a continuance. It's been continued several times over the last several months, and what is the status, if you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
There's been some changes in the people that are doing the work for Clearwire, and we were under the impression that tonight we were here for the 295 Varnum Ave, which is scheduled under new business, and for 141 Marginal Street, which we were assuming was also scheduled under new business.
Okay.
I did not know that 403 Andover Street was on the agenda for tonight at all.
Okay, is there any other representative from Clear Wireless here tonight?
Just the 3 of us here.
Okay, and you guys know nothing about it
Correct.
as far as tonight?
So could we continue it for one more hearing, and I will find out what is going on with that, and
Sure,
we'll
before we
straighten it
vote to
out.
do that, I do think there's some members that might be opposing it or interested in it. I understand, we'll just maybe hear from them, just
Yes,
maybe they can
absolutely.
shed some light on it.
Absolutely.
Okay, Attorney Wyker, do you know anything that you can share with us?
Good evening. If I could shed some light on it, my last communication with the city is that a RFP, a request for proposals, was put out regarding various alternative sites in which to locate an actual tower, one of which included Duck Island. I believe one may have been one of the discussed alternative locations in or around Cawley Stadium area, and there are at least 2 other locations. I do know that Clearwire was one of the people, or was one of the organizations that submitted a bid for towers at those locations. I believe, again, working off the last information I had, was that the city was evaluating those proposals that had come in regarding setting up telecommunications facilities at those locations. I don't know if the city's made a final determination on that, but I think we might have some information here.
The lights have come on. Yes, Clearwire has applied for 4 RFPs that were put out by the town, the city. The city has not made a decision on those RFPs. Is this near Duck Island, this address?
Oh, yeah, I think that's one of the ones that they
So
considered.
that's probably what that is we did make an offer on the Duck Island site, and I know there were several other people who made offers in that location also.
Okay. All right, so
This is obviously
are you requesting a continuance? I'd suggest not to the next meeting, but to the meeting after that.
that would be fine.
If that's okay with anybody's here to speak against it? That's okay. So do you want to make that request to the board and?
To continue this for 2 meetings.
Yes, to the next meeting. Aaron, that would be when, in the middle of September?
September 27th, Mr. Chairman.
So there's not one,
There's one on the 13th as well.
okay, so it's September 27th.
I believe there's a March of Dimes fundraiser that evening that might take several people away from being able to attend. Would a date beyond that be available? It's just one date that I know sticks in my mind.
Yeah.
That'd be fine with Clearwater.
Okay, the next one after that, mid-October, Aaron, is that it? October? I know now we're getting into that
Yes,
Columbus Day weekend.
the scheduled meeting would be the 11th, which is Columbus Day, which is a holiday Monday, so normally we would go on the 13th because the council uses the chambers on Tuesday, so I'm theorizing that would be October the 13th.
What, is it
That's
already
what it's on the
scheduled?
schedule.
Okay. All right, October 13th.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a request to continue this matter until October 13th, when we can get more information. Anybody want to discuss it or speak from the board?
I don't know, Aaron, do you have any light to shed on this situation, or do you have any information?
Not much more than that's already been communicated. The city is in the process of evaluating a number of proposals based on an RFP. I made an inquiry today to find out, hopefully get a better sense of when we would have a final answer on that, just so in the event this would happen, but I did not get a reply back today. But I can forward the board some more information on that. It doesn't help now, but I would imagine October 30th would be plenty of time.
Okay.
Okay.
Make a decision.
All right. So you need a motion to continue?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to continue till October the 13th, 2010.
Second the motion.
And roll call, Aaron, please.
Mr. Bailey?
Continue to October 13th.
Mr. Belanger?
Continue.
Mr. Gary?
Continue to October 13th.
Mr. Perrin?
Continue October 13th.
Mr. Nguyen?
Continue to October 13.
Okay, sir, if you could just pass it on to anybody at Clear Wireless. This is continued to October 13th. And Attorney Weicker, the same thing, and anybody who's interested in participating in that meeting has to be here October 13th. There will be no further public notice of that date or time. Okay, moving forward, the next item on the agenda is administrative review of previously granted petition 1527 Middlesex Street to reduce the number of required parking spaces for martial arts school in accordance with 6.2. I understand, sir, there may be a request for a continuance.
Yes, because we acquired some parking space and stuff, and we just had to wait for the lease agreement and all the other stuff to be to put together, and also the drawing for the engineer, a new drawing. So he didn't have ample enough time, so just requesting if we can have it continue to the next meeting.
Okay, and I know I haven't been voted on this business, so why don't you take over and I'll just sit back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How long continue would you like
Oh,
to?
hopefully for the next one,
The next one?
Yes.
Aaron, what's the next meeting?
September 13th.
Mr. Vice Chair, that would be 3 weeks from tonight, September the 13th.
And that'd be
3
fine.
weeks.
Would that be enough time?
Yes.
Right. With that being said, is there any motion to continue?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, I'll make a motion to continue till September the 13th, 2010.
Thank you.
Hold on, please. Second,
Second the motion.
roll call, please, Aaron. Thank you.
Mr. Belanger?
Continue.
Mr. Perrin?
Continue.
Mr. Nguyen?
Continue to September 13.
Mr. Bienvenu?
Continue.
Mr. Bailey?
Continue to September 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that matter's been continued to September 13th. There'll be no further public notice. Anybody wishing to address the board has to show up that evening, that time. The next matter for new business is ZB 2010, special permanent variance request for telecommunications. This is Clear Wireless LLC, 295 Varnum Ave, for the co-location of a wireless telecommunications facility on the existing rooftop for Clear Wireless LLC pursuant to Section 7.6 of the code. Would an applicant for Clear Wireless please address the board regarding this petition? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Alex Ignachuk. I work for Network Building and Consulting as agent for Clear Wireless LLC. also known as Clearwire. I'm here tonight under the Telecommunications Act, of 1996, to request a special permit for 295 Varnum Ave. At this location, Clearwire proposes to install 6 panel antennas with an approximate rad center of 71 feet 6 inches, as well as 3 2-foot backhaul antennas at a rad center of approximately 74 feet, with all associated equipment also being located on the rooftop, as well as installing 1 GPS antenna. To the best of our knowledge, Clearwire has filled out the application pertinent to the Code 7.6 of the zoning board. And at this time, I'd like to open up to questions if there are any concerns.
So, sir, this is a co-location, meaning that there won't be any really, you can't really tell you're already putting it on where something already exists. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's an existing rooftop. There are carriers already at the location.
Yep.
I believe it's T-Mobile that's already co-located there. We'll be going on the same rooftop in our own area.
Okay. And will this cover a gap for you? Will it provide coverage in a gap area, or is?
Yes.
Yeah. And there's currently a gap there now, is that the whole point?
Yes.
Putting it there? Okay. Okay, anybody wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Anybody wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody here wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? In opposition? And hearing no opposition, that portion of the public hearing is closed. We'll open up to the board for consideration. Bill, any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions for the applicant. In section 3 of your handout, you provided a couple of coverage maps where you talk about existing network coverage and then proposed coverage provided by the site. Can you explain to me each of the locations that you're showing here, which ones have been approved so far by this board, and if you have some other locations on here, what do those actually represent?
With me tonight, I brought an expert radio frequency engineer who would be able to answer any questions regarding the additional sites out in the area. If that would
One
be
of the
all right.
reasons why I'm asking the question, when I look at these numbers that are on here, I sometimes am puzzled what they actually represent, so if I could have that explained to me, I'd appreciate it.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Philip Leite, L-E-I-T-E. I'm a radio frequency engineer for Clearwire LLC. The dots with the numbers on them, those are sites that we're proposing. Thank you. Those are sites that we're proposing to build sites at.
Sorry. For instance, on the page for existing network coverage, the very top left, BOS 7534, is that a proposed site in the future, or is
Yes,
that? Okay. And 7399 below that, is that the site that's already been approved at the, I believe it was the Grandview?
I believe it was.
Okay. So the site that we're talking about, is that 7536?
Yes, sir, 7536 and 7537.
Okay. 7537 being for the next petition?
Yes, sir.
correct? Okay.
That's correct.
So if I identify looks like there's 10 different locations on these maps right now, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that going to be the total number of sites that we're going to see at this point, or are there going to be more at some point?
Well, the current plan is what you see before you. As different requirements come about, we might have to come back, but this is going to satisfy our build for our launch in October.
Okay, can you tell me on the map, and I know we're not talking about it, but we talked about it previously, where is 403 Andover Street on this?
I don't know off the top of my head, sir. I really wasn't prepared for that this evening.
Okay. Well, I've asked these questions before when Clear Wireless has come before us, so when I took a look at this last set of plans, I'm just trying to get an idea of what the intention is of Clear Wireless. Is this supposed, that's why I was asking, I noticed some locations here we've never even reviewed or discussed before.
Right,
And I didn't see anything that indicated Andover Street on here either.
right.
Because one of the things that I'm kind of concerned about is this whole thing about the coverage.
Right.
And I don't think you gentlemen have been before us, have you?
No, sir, I have not.
Yeah. So I want to make sure I understand, and there's a consistent message that Clear Wireless is giving us about coverage.
Yes, sir.
And what the gaps are. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering, as, you know, we're going through these, if there's some further discussion we should have. I think it's been discussed before, you know, what is the plan? How many sites are they looking at? And I'm not trying to get away from what we're talking about tonight, but you're presenting a package here, and I'm trying to understand what the package is supposed to entail.
Right. Basically, what this is the general plan. We're required to provide, you know, residential coverage for our new 4G network. And the minimum amount of sites that we would require to do that is what we try to concentrate on. And that's basically what you're looking at in front of you now. We've selected locations to where we definitely have gaps in coverage. And because it's expensive to build these sites, we want to do it with as few as humanly possible, just like you do.
So if I don't see Andover Street on here, does that mean Andover Street isn't part of the network anymore?
It means that site or that search ring is not being looked at this time. That's correct.
Okay. So after tonight, with the two petitions that you have before us, am I to assume that we'll see no more petitions?
I can't guarantee that, sir.
Okay. That's why I'm asking the questions. I'm trying to understand, as we look at these things, you know, is this a piecemeal approach, or are we going to see a master plan that Clear Wireless has?
Right now, we do have, again, 4 offers into the city on RFPs. So those 4 sites will be in if we are awarded them. If we're not awarded them, they may not be able to be part of our system.
Okay. Excuse me, but those 4 sites aren't on these plans, correct?
I don't know. I can certainly track that down. And a site like the one we were talking about earlier, Andover Street, we're not ready to move forward with it right now. And even if we got awarded today, someone said, yes, you're awarded the Duck Island, and nobody was in opposition and we could move forward, it would still be a ways out before we would be ready to come in front of you to try to get that approved. As he was saying, these sites are very, very expensive. It's my job, when I start on a certain project, to find the best way to cover an area with the least amount of sites, and that usually is where existing antennas are, where the carriers already have gone. There's a reason that they're there. There's a reason they're not 2 blocks down the street or 3 blocks down the street. There's so many variables in what makes coverage. And these RF guys, though they're very smart and they have some incredible computer programs that can show what they believe is going to make coverage, there's so many variables that the amount of people that use it, that people that drive down the road and use the system, reduces and changes coverage plots. And after the system's turned on, we may find holes that we didn't have or didn't think that we had. And we may have to come back for those to try to find ways to cover those things also. But again, we are really working hard at not building new towers and not building new sites wherever we can. Town properties are great things. Existing buildings that have antennas already on them is our goal. And again, to do it with as few sites as possible.
Okay. Just to wrap up quickly, so again, the existing network coverage, BOS 7534, 7532, 5802, and 6139, it looks like. Are those all sites that we have not entertained yet? So it's the top left, it's the two in the top right, and then that's the bottom right.
I would honestly, to answer that
Yep.
correctly, I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
They're either have been in front of you or we're hoping that they'll be in front of you. But I think that most of ours have either been in front of you minus the 4 that are the RFPs.
Well, I went through and I'm pretty sure I can identify what we've already entertained
Okay.
before, but I was trying to understand the purpose of the maps. Is this going to be the master plan for Clear Wireless? Yeah.
As of today, this is what we're trying to do.
Yes. Okay.
But again, if a lease doesn't come through or we find that for some reason that we're not going to be able to do one of these in this location, it may have to be moved.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, any other comments? Okay, I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a... Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second it.
Okay, roll call, please, Aaron.
Chairman Gary,
Approve.
Mr. Perrin,
Approve.
Mr. Nguyen,
Approve.
Mr. Bailey,
Approve.
Mr. Belanger.
Approve.
Okay, so you've been unanimously approved. If you could just come up here and sign the plan, and you should be all set. Thank you very much. Next petition is ZB 2010, number 21, special permit and variance telecommunications, Clear Wireless LLC, 141 Marginal Street, for the co-location of a wireless telecommunications facility for Clear Wireless pursuant to section 7.6 of the zoning code.
Once again, I'm Alex Ignachuk, I'm here for Clearwire, and this particular site is an existing smokestack at 141 Marginal Street. At this site, Clearwire proposes to install 3 panel antennas to be flush mounted at approximately 100 feet.
What did you say, flush mounted?
Yes, to the smokestack. In addition, we'll be proposing 3 2-foot backhaul antennas, also to be flush mounted with a rad center of approximately 103 feet. All antennas will be painted to match the existing structure for concealment purposes. We're also proposing a extension of the smokestack in order to reach the height of 100 feet. The smokestack will have to be extended by 10 feet with brick material to match the existing smokestack. Additional equipment will be located at the base of the smokestack, and there will also be 1 GPS antenna installed. At this time, I
Who owns the smokestack, if you know?
believe it's owned by Brazzi Development Corporation.
And you said it's a co-location as well, right? There's other companies already locating on that
There are,
property? Okay. Anything else, sir?
That's it.
Okay, anybody wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor, and hearing none, that portion, the public hearing is closed. Anybody here wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition to this petition, and hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Any comments? Bez?
Chairman, question question, where is the equipment located? Where you store the equipment?
It'll be at the base of the smokestack in the existing compound.
So it'll be enclosed?
Oh,
It's
the,
only
on
for
the,
you guys to go
on
in,
the
right?
smokestack?
Yep.
It'll be flush mounted to the outside.
No, I
of-
mean the equipment. The equipment, not the antenna.
Okay, sorry, I
Where
misunderstood.
the equipment located?
That'll be on the ground.
On the ground?
yes.
Enclosed?
Wrong thing.
If you look at page A1 of the drawings, you'll see the equipment is inside the larger fenced-in area, and it's
Which
owned.
page is that?
A1 of the actual drawings. Shows an elevation of the smokestack, and then a look-down version. View.
Oh, I see it, right.
It's not enclosed. It's not like a Sprint or Verizon shed. I think it's the first one.
Okay, go ahead.
Not enclosed. It's an open space, but it's inside the compound. Use the wrong word.
Where? Could you point to me?
Come up and
Yeah,
show-
you can approach
Yeah,
it.
come on in. Construction drawing. Yeah, it's not here though.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Yeah, right here. You have the enclosures. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's probably why. Okay, thank you. So, how often do you come to service the equipment?
It'll be approximately once, twice a month.
Once, twice a month, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
No, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a good location for something like this. I know Clear Wireless is a new provider, and you're trying to, expand your coverage throughout the city, and that's great. I like the locations on top of a hospital where it's barely visible and an existing tower. I'm also in favor of, but it's when we encroach on, neighborhoods is where I have difficulty. But in this case, I do support it. Thank you.
Okay, need a motion?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Need a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Aaron?
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Mr. Noon?
Approved.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Chairman Gary?
Approve. So, sir, you've been unanimously approved. I just need you to come up and sign the plan, and you can hand it to Mr. Carlson. Should be all set. Thank you very much. Okay, the next matter is ZB 2010, number 28, special permit. The applicant is Rocket Realty Trust, 105 Mount Washington Street, to change the current building from a two-family into a three-family structure pursuant to Article 12, Section 12B. Before we get started, we did get some feedback from the planning board on...
I just want to say thank you very much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome, sir. On this property, and the planning board voted unanimously 4-0 to recommend approval. Attorney Flood.
For the record, James Flood, 549 Rogers Street, Lowell, representing Elizabeth Skinsakis, trustee of Rocket Realty Trust. Elizabeth's not here tonight, but her son Spiro is, to answer any questions. As the petition states, we're in front of you to request a special permit under 12(2)B to convert an existing building at 105 Mount Washington Street from two to three families. The property consists of 12,797 square feet in the zone TMU. The lot does have sufficient square footage to support the 3 units based on the land area per dwelling unit, and as the plan will show, we have 8 parking spaces, which is more than is required. There'll be no changes to the outside of the building. All of the renovations will be to the inside. As a matter of fact, they have just recently finished de-letting the whole inside with the help of the city of Lowell. So I think it'll be an improvement to the neighborhood. You won't notice any change outside, and I urge you to approve this special permit.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody here wish to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? And hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody here wish to speak in opposition to this petition? In opposition? And hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed, and we're going to open up to the board for consideration. Bill, any comments or questions, Mr.
Yeah,
Flood?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Mr. Flood, lawyer.
Good, Bill.
On the plans, you're showing eight parking spots.
Correct.
7 across, and then there's 1 tucked behind the building. I noticed when I drove by, there was like a big white van parked right on the end of the building. Is there still going to be enough room to have egress to that parking spot?
Answer that, Spiro? He can explain what.
Sure.
Sparis Kansakis, 95 Marshall Ave, Lowell, Mass. Is it the van when you're pulling in on the left, or the one around the corner in front of the barn? Because there's a
I would say if you were to enter the driveway, it'd be your last spot in that row. There was like a big white van, just happened to be parked on the corner. And when I looked at that spot in back, I just want to make sure there's enough room to get around there and you have the
Yep,
parking.
there will be, it'll all be marked off professionally with lines, and so they'll definitely.
That was going to be another
Yep.
question I had, if you were going to be lining it.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So there's a spot out back, I think there was like a green truck parked out back.
Yep.
Where the retaining wall it shows here. You're not going to use that. Would that be used for like snow storage or do you have any plans for that?
The truck on the left's going to be removed because it's
Yep.
unregistered. So once I start remodeling the whole property, I'm going to fix that retaining wall and maybe move it back. But as you can see, there's a lot of debris there on
Right.
top of the wall, trees.
Yep.
I haven't done anything to it yet because I just de-letted the inside through the city of Lowell. And
Yep.
then I was waiting for this, hopefully, to get approved. And then after that, we're going to clean the whole outside up and inside. So I was just waiting on that.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to use that for snow storage or you
Yeah,
could
oh,
get rid of
definitely.
your snow
Yep,
up
I
there.
plow myself too.
Yeah, because
so-
I think, just going there and then basing it on the plan, it's good to see you got 8 parking spots. The other thing I noticed too was at the front of the building, you don't have a sign for parking on the street. I would assume, do you plan on putting up a sign for street parking or not?
I don't think so. Also on the right too, I own the driveway goes on the right of the house. If you're looking at it, there's a barn in the back.
Yep.
That's also another driveway also. And we also own the house on the right, number 99 Mount Washington. So, it works out great.
Okay. The work you're having done up on the 3rd floor, I guess that's where the 3rd unit will be going in?
Well, there's a back unit in the back, which is occupied now, which is a 1-bedroom.
Yep.
And then the first floor in the front will be a 2-bedroom, and then the 2nd and 3rd floor will be the 3rd unit. And if you look at the plans, the architect made a mistake. On the 2nd floor, it shows 3 bedrooms.
Yep.
It's not correct. There'd be a kitchen, a dining room, and probably a living room, and the 3 bedrooms would be on the 3rd floor.
Do you plan on finishing off the top of the building, the siding?
Oh, yes, it's going to be beautiful when it's done.
Yep,
Definitely.
yep.
With the inside, we restored it, we de-letted it, I mean, we scraped everything to the original. We didn't cut any corners.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. No, I think it's a good plan, and when I can always see parking like this, that I always think that's a key thing, and I think you have plenty of room there, so I wish you best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. Gary, anything?
Good evening. Yeah, please. Good evening. Just two quick questions related to parking. These parking spots 1 through 8, is this going to be general parking, or are they going to be assigned parking?
Assigned.
Will they be numerically assigned to each tenant, each floor?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
You referenced you own the driveway to the right of the building. I noticed in the plans there's an existing driveway to the left. Is that your driveway as well?
When you're facing the building, looking to the right?
Right.
Yes,
That's your
that is a
driveway.
driveway also.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like a great plan. I wish you the best of luck.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary. Vesna?
I have no comment, thank you.
Okay, Corey, anything?
Yes, to you, Mr. Chairman. So, it looks like so in total, we have a one-bedroom, a two-bedroom, and a three-bedroom. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. All right, that's actually, I expected actually a little more. That's a very sizable structure there, and you're certainly not overpopulating it by any stretch. So, I certainly think you're doing a good job there. I was out there today. I walked around the whole structure. It looks great. It looks great. And it's an old home, and we want to preserve it with integrity, and you've done a great job with that. And I think you have the parking there, ample parking. Now, the only thing I'd like to see you do, hopefully you see it clear, I'd like to see you maybe stripe the parking lot, the parking spaces to give a little more organization there, and maybe number them and stripe them, and to make it nice and organized there for you. I think the neighborhood would be a lot better off, but I'd like to make that a condition, Mr. Chairman.
Striping, designate and stripe the parking?
Yeah, other than that, that's about it. I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Corey. Rick, anything?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody? So I need a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the following condition, that the parking lot be striped and numbered.
Okay, is there a second?
Second the motion.
Roll call, Aaron?
Mr. Noon?
Approve with those conditions.
Mr. Bailey?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Chairman Gary?
Approve with conditions. So you've been unanimously approved. You just need to come up and sign this, and you should be all set. Good luck.
Excuse me, Chairman, I think we have one more vote to clear out the vote.
Okay, the next petition is ZB 2010-29. This is a request for a variance. Malavi Kang, 21 Osgood Street, to maintain an existing carport with insufficient side and rear setback in proximity to house pursuant to Article 5, Section 5.1 of the code.
Did you only take 4 votes there?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we need one more from Mr. Perrin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the last vote.
Did he already vote?
Not yet. Nope.
On the last petition.
We got a long agenda. I'll just call it.
Okay.
Is it okay if I just call out? And
Just call it all over again.
all over again? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just go through it quickly. Mr. Noon?
Approve.
Mr. Bailey?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Chairman Gary?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Thank you.
Okay, you've been unanimously approved with conditions. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'll call the petition again, ma'am. ZB 2010, number 29, a request for a variance, Malavi Kang, 21 Osgood Street, to maintain an existing carport with insufficient side and rear setback in proximity to the house pursuant to to Article 5, Section 5.1 of the code. Welcome, ma'am. Could you please state your name and address for the record?
Hi, my name is Malavi Kang. I live in 21 Osgood Street in Lowell. In June, right, and my son, he graduated from college, right, and I
Ma'am,
thought
can you
that-
pull the microphone down a little? You can.
Okay, you hear me?
You can now.
Okay, yeah. In June this year, my son, he graduated from college, and I thought that I want to give him the party. And when I went to rent a tent, some kind of expensive, and I thought that, oh, maybe I could put the carport. Maybe I can do my son graduation and when the snow, I can park the car. I don't have to scratch the snow every time I wake up, go to work early in the morning, And after that, I ordered the carport to install behind my house. And when they come to install, they didn't say anything that I had to need the permit to put the carport on, right? And after that, I did put the carport, and I didn't know that I had to get the permit from the city hall, right? And a few days later on, I get the letter that I had to come to the board appeal. That's why I come to the board appeal right now.
Okay. So you weren't sure that you didn't know that you were supposed to get a permit.
No, I didn't
And you called the
know at
company,
all.
they installed it, and then you got a letter, so now you're here because it's already existing.
Yeah.
Have you had any complaints from your neighbors that you're aware of?
No, my neighborhood, everybody say okay, you know, and they say that they look nice too.
Yeah. Okay. All right, anything else you'd like to tell us, ma'am?
Right now, I don't want to take it out, because it costs too much money, you know, and I want to put it because easy for me to park the car too. That's why, please can I put it? I don't want to take it out. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I assume there was no other place on your property to put it, so you had to put it there because of the shape of the land?
Yeah, because I put in my land. I had nowhere to put, you know, that's all I had to
Right,
put.
but you couldn't put it in the front?
No, not in the front, not in the side, just behind my house.
And the reason you couldn't put it in the front or the side is because it wouldn't fit there because of the shape of your lot? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because no room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody here wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? If you could step up, ladies, one at a time. Just state your name and address for the record and then tell us what you'd like to say.
My name is Judith Gebhardt. I live at 17 Osgood Street in Lowell. I live right next door to Malavie, and our garage abuts, the side of our garage abuts this carport, and we find no problem with it. I think it really looks nice, and it's useful to her. We have no problem whatsoever.
And you're a direct abutter, you live right next to her?
Right next door, and our garage is right behind this structure.
Okay,
And it's no problem.
okay. Thank you for your comments, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Welcome, ma'am.
My name is Mary Michaud. I live at 25 Osgood Street, and I see no problem with her carport there.
You've seen the carport?
I can only see it when I'm doing my dishes, and for matter of fact, it's hiding the building that the people own the restaurant on Westford Street, and I like that up there because it's hiding the back of that building.
Okay. All right, thank you for your comments, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishes to speak in favor? In favor of this petition? And hearing nothing else, that portion of the public hearing will be closed. Anybody wish to speak in opposition to this petition? In opposition? Okay, and hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. We'll open up to the board for consideration. Bill, any comments or thoughts?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I drove by the site, and it's a very well-maintained piece of property. And I think with the neighbors, with the signed signatures here that was also submitted, and a couple of the neighbors actually showing up, I really have no problem at all with the setup. I think it's conducive of where they set it up, and the reason that the applicant gave, I think, is sufficient, and I would support it. Thank you.
Okay, Bill, thanks. Gary?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
And Vesna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Mr. Chairman spoke off with regard to this issue of the hardship. The shape of the lot itself, I think it's indicated that. Also, I went by the properties, and behind it is also a certain portion of the property is also belong to the restaurants on Westwood Street. So the restaurant owners is also park in those areas, as well as the delivery truck that's going that way. It's a good neighborhood, and it's a good property, well kept by the petitioners, and it's a testimony to the people that here tonight that spoke on her behalf, that took the time to be here. So I have no problem with this petition, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks, Vesna. And Corey?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm in agreement with my colleagues. I viewed the property this afternoon. You got a beautiful piece of property. You certainly take pride in your home, and I think you made an honest mistake, and I think you deserve to keep your carport there. But I do have a small concern. I mean, I just want to make sure, Mr. Chairman, that it's structurally safe. I don't know if we can get inspectional services up there just to take a quick peek at it, because, I mean, it's there, it looks good, and I want her to keep it, but at the same time, I'd like it to be safe at the same time, so I don't know where we stand there.
Okay, ma'am, have you had anybody come up and look at it structurally? Anybody from the building department? Or did you just receive a letter?
I have no idea, sir. I think they've been there to look at it. I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, you probably don't know, and that's fine.
I don't know. Sorry about that.
Okay, well, we may have, through the zoning clerk, send inspectional services to your house, ma'am, just to make sure it's safe. We want you to keep your carport,
yeah.
but we want it safe at the same time, okay?
Yeah,
So,
that'll be all right.
Okay,
You want
great.
me to be there when they go to look at it, or?
I think somebody would probably just contact you.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Great, so I am certainly in favor, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay. And Rick?
No comments, Mr. Chairman, this time.
Okay. Any other comments? You need a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second motion.
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. Gary?
Approve?
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Mr. Noon?
Approve.
Okay, ma'am, you've been unanimously approved. Good luck. I just need you to come up and sign one document from Mr. Belanger, and you're all set.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, folks.
Thank you.
Yep. Ma'am, I just need you to come up and sign one document when you get a chance, okay? Yeah, and date it. Today's the 23rd. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, the next petition, ZB 2010, you're welcome. ZB 2010, number 30, a special permit request. The applicant is Lowell Regional Water Utility, 191 Mount Pleasant Street. The applicant would like to build a new elevated water storage tank specifically for water utility use in a residential district pursuant to Article 12, Section 12.7.c of the zoning code. And I think we have a,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recuse myself due to a potential conflict.
okay,
Thank you-
so.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Blanch is recusing himself, and Mr. Bienvenu is going to be voting in his absence. So I'm sorry, Mr. Leif?
Yes, our proposal tonight is to replace an existing water tower that has been on site since 1911.
Dan, could you just officially state your name and address for the record, just
Sure.
because we do have to have that?
Sure, Daniel
And your
Leif.
title, actually, of,
Daniel Lahiff, Executive Director, Lowell Regional Water Utility, 815 Pawtucket Boulevard.
thank you.
Our proposal tonight is to construct a new 123-foot, 1 million gallon tank on the existing site where a previous 400,000 gallon tank sat. Since 1911, these projects were all approved back in 2007. We have been before two subcommittees with the approval of the City Council 2 weeks ago. The existing land will not change, and the property is owned by the city. So it's my understanding that we meet, in accordance with the permit application, the zoning analysis indicates that we meet all the applicable dimension requirements. The one except for the requirement for 35 feet for height variance. However, Section 527, exemptions to height requirements for the City of Lowell zoning book, water towers are identified and approved exception to the height requirements in all districts, and that's our intention.
Okay, so basically, it's just a special permit. You don't need a variance for that.
Correct, it's just for usage.
And would there be any real discernible difference between the water tower as it is now and how it will be built?
Construction or size?
That's really the only difference?
Right, it's a vast difference in size. You're
Yeah.
going from approximately 45 feet to 123.
Any difference in the circumference?
The sphere will be much bigger, yes. I know in the plans, I think the circumference of the sphere is about 72 feet.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to tell us? What will it serve a public purpose?
It's going to serve what they call a low-high service, about 21,000 people, including about 8,000 in Dracut and Belvedere section of the city.
And is that a need that's not being served now by the current?
Right now, we're relying on pump stations.
Okay.
Our design engineers are here, if you have any more technical questions.
Sure.
And we have a couple of charts here as well.
Right. I guess my only other question would be if this is approved, will it eliminate the need for the pump stations?
In case of emergency, absolutely.
Okay. That's my only technical question. I think everything else is pretty straightforward on it. Okay, anything else you'd like to tell us, or?
Just, in fact, it states that it is a very positive improvement, enhances and improves our water system.
Okay. Anybody here wishes to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor of this petition? And hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak in opposition to this petition? Does anybody oppose this? Welcome, sir. You can state your name and address for the record and tell us why you oppose it.
Sure. My name is Jeff Ross. I live at 19 Brox Road, and I'm definitely in opposition to this tank. As you know, the tank was approved by the City Council 2 weeks ago. It is a massive tank in a residential neighborhood, and that's part of the reason why it's here before the zoning board. Keep in mind, it was a 35-foot high structure. It's going to 123 feet, increasing from 400,000 gallons to 1 million. The sphere is 40 feet high, 74 feet wide, twice the width of a home in the neighborhood. It's a massive, again, massive structure in a residential area. 2 weeks ago, we were here at the city chambers. Mr. Rivard, the engineer for the engineering firm, he described the pressure that's going to be generated by this. He also said he had a grave concern for the pipes within Lowell to be able to handle this. I guess some of the pipes were over 100 years old, and it seems like we're rushing this. We were presented this, and the board, city council voted and approved, and that's understood. But I don't understand the rush. This is in a residential area. There was a petition. We have over 250 signatures in opposition to this. The fire department spoke on behalf, and we do understand that. We understand there's a need for this. We'd asked for some sort of a compromise. The compromise that was given was a proposal for 47-foot high tank that didn't meet minimum requirements by anyone's standards. So the choice before the city council was the 123-foot million-gallon superstructure and a 47-foot high structure that wouldn't meet basic requirements for water pressure or for fire. So in essence, there was no choice, there was no compromise, there was no consideration given for the neighborhoods. In light of this new tank, that there has not been a working tank for the past 10 years. What are the conditions of the pipes? We heard about the fire department and their concern for leakage and not having proper water pressure and volume in water. What's to say that when this new unit comes online, that the pipes will handle it? Mr. Rivard showed many, many slides of pipes leaking, being frozen. Are the pipes in Drake able to take the water pressure? This new tower, it will serve a large part of Drake as well as into Belvedere. So I think these are legitimate concerns. We're also told of the water tower on Wedge Street that is similar in size to the tank that's being proposed on the top of Mount Pleasant. It holds 500,000 gallons, not 1 million. We heard complaints about a water pressure relief valve that blows off so that it doesn't build too much pressure in the tank. How often can we expect that to go off? And where will the runoff be? Will the runoff be in my or my neighbors' backyards? Will it go somewhere? These are all answers we haven't heard. Is this area going to be available for cell phone tower use in the future? Again, questions unanswered. Will trees be cut down on their property? It's generally agreed upon by my neighbors it's an eyesore. We would prefer that not one tree be cut down that doesn't have to be, okay? So when it's described as replacing an existing water tower, it's somewhat disingenuous in that, again, the original was 35-foot high, below the tree line. Okay, this is going to expand way, way beyond the tree line, and again, in a residential neighborhood. So, So I want to know, if this can be considered. And that's all I have. Thank you very much for
Okay,
your
maybe
time.
we can see if there's, the technical person may be able to respond to some of these concerns, sir, if you could. I don't remember the exact order of his concerns, but I think one of them, that's jumped out at me was, what if there is a leak? Is it going to go into their backyards? There has to be some mechanism that can prevent that, I would imagine.
Okay, first of all, my name is Jim Ravad, and I'm with engineering firm Woodard & Curran.
Yep.
We're the design engineers for this project. The site, we're not changing the drainage of the site at all. So there is, if there is any leak from the tank, and I understand that the old tank did leak on occasion, then that runoff is directed towards a catch basin, actually in Lowell on Mount Pleasant Street.
Okay. And what about taking trees down?
We're not going to take any trees down around the perimeter of the site, because we feel that most people would rather not have the trees taken down. There will be trees taken down on the interior of the site, just so that we can actually build the tank and have a construction laydown area. But we are not planning on taking any trees down around the perimeter of the site.
Okay, and what is these a standard water tower color? I mean, is there any way to blend that in a little bit, or?
The color, we're actually going to open it up to the neighborhood group in Centerville. That's what we did in the Highlands when we built the tank on Wedge Street. This tank, by the way, is the same height as the one on Wedge Street. And what we did is just basically open it up to a neighborhood group, and they can choose the color of the tank. Usually the best color, the most, I guess, unobtrusive color is like a light blue, which is the color of the tank on Wedge Street. But people would like a different color that live right next to the tank in the neighborhood, that's fine too.
What street is the one on the Highlands on?
On Wedge Street.
Yeah.
Corner Wedge Street and Campbell Drive.
Yep. The only water tower on the Highlands, right?
Yes.
I thought you said Wedge Street, so, okay, so, you said you're probably not taking any trees down around there. Are there any trees that are coming down?
There are some small trees, again, on the kind of the interior of the site. They're not very big, and some of those will be taken down just so the contractor will have an area to work and store his material.
Okay.
But nothing on the perimeter.
And what about the concern, I think there was an alarm they said might go off. Is that going to keep going? I mean, I can understand the concern about that. If there's an alarm that's being triggered every couple of days or so, is that a possibility?
The Wedge Street tank is set up differently than this tank, and there is what's called an altitude valve, that if the pressure gets too high coming from the water treatment plant, that altitude valve will close and stop the tank from overflowing. The situation on the 10th Street tank is completely different. They're controlled by pumping stations, and you don't have an altitude valve that could malfunction. And the one on Wedge Street did malfunction, and the city is in the process of repairing it right now.
Is there any way to do an accelerated construction schedule so it doesn't interfere too much with the neighborhood, or do you already have one of those in place?
If the project moves forward, the plan would be to build the tank during the winter, and then paint it in the spring, and then do all the site work in the spring.
And what about his concern that it seems like it's being overbuilt? Is there a possibility to do a smaller one, or does it make any sense to do a smaller one?
It really doesn't make any sense at all.
And why is that?
Just to give you an idea, the one on Wedge Street is 500,000 gallons. Same height. You need the height to provide adequate pressure for all the residents really adjacent to the tank. The one on Wedge Street supplies water to maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people. The one on 10th Street supplies water to 21,000 people. So there just needs more water in case there's an emergency and the pumping stations don't operate. It's just really just the size of the population that it serves.
Have you had any problems with the one in the Highlands?
The only problem that they've had recently is this altitude valve that failed, and that's being repaired.
And so once it's repaired, you don't anticipate any other problems there?
No.
Do you anticipate any problems with this once it's built?
No. Again, it's set up differently. The pump station at Wedge Street is at the base of the tank. The pump station that's going to fill this tank is remote from it. It's at the corner of Reservoir and Beacon Street.
And I think
So
the
you
one in the
won't-
Highlands is almost like enclosed, and it looks like almost a park or something.
Yes, yes.
Any plans for this to be anything similar?
We have, a few of the neighbors in the area have approached the water department and asked if, when the construction's done, if they could kind of clean the area, clean the site up, and maybe have like a passive park, but that's still in the planning stages. Nothing is set yet.
Okay.
That probably won't be set until, I would assume, next spring.
But you have been approached by a neighborhood group?
Yeah, a few neighbors have approached the water department and asked if we could do that.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody here, in addition to the gentleman who just spoke, wishing to speak in opposition to this? In opposition, sir? And please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, Peter Shell, 277 10th Street, Lowell.
What would you like to tell us, sir?
What?
What would you like to tell us?
Oh, I had a couple things. I realized that this tank is going to be built, so the former arguments I'm not wanting to address at the moment. I do have a couple concerns. One is where they said if the tank overflows, the existing topography is not changed, then it will drain as the old tank did, and the old tank would drain eventually. The city made a ditch down the land over a set of stairs and into the street. There is a catch basin near there. In the old days, we could end up with up to a foot of ice in the middle of that road in the wintertime with several ruts. Take your pick. You couldn't steer once you got in a rut. And if they haven't done something more, they should. I mean, just having an open trench running across an edge of the land, there's hardly any forethought for drainage. I also thought that on the plans, it had a whole pile of notes in there about landscaping that was going to be done upon completion of the project. We would like to assure that the lot is landscaped and cleaned up. I know there's notes about rebuilding the stone wall and a few other things that they tore down years back. One thing I was curious about, it's not necessarily your purview, I thought someone said they wanted to change the zoning. They're not really changing the zoning, merely getting a special permit. Is that correct?
Yes, it's just basically a request for
So
special
the
permit.
suburban single-family zone will be in place after the construction of this one project.
Right, this is an allowed use if it's
Yeah,
with a
it's just-
special
it's a-
permit.
Yeah, it's a funny-looking single-family house, yes.
Mhm.
So that zoning will remain, and this permit would be for the construction of one water tower, solely one water tower, not to in some way infer, as has been implied in the past up to 6 weeks ago, that this land was for use at the discretion of the water department. That would not be the case, is that correct?
As far as I know,
Apart from
sir,
building what's
they're
on
before,
your
they're
plan.
before this board for a special permit to build a water tower. There's nothing else. You know, I think our concerns may be similar to what you're saying. What's going to surround it, similar to what I just asked.
And
The-
upon completion, was still a single-family zone area.
It's not changing your zoning at all. That would
Funny
require
house.
city council approval.
And if there was a zone, it would be through the city council to change it.
Yes,
So
we
if
don't change
wanted it
zoning.
to become a passive park or something, it would go to the council to set that up.
Right.
Okay. That,
Well, maybe I misunderstood you. Are you saying that the lot that they're building the water tower on is a single-family home lot? And they're just looking...
It's not subdivided, it is zoned suburban, single-family. SFF, I believe, is the
Right, but the...
zoning. 6 weeks ago, according to their propaganda sheets, this was city-owned property, water department use. No mention. I mean, that's why, this has gone out to bid already, and now they're in looking for the special permit to build it.
Okay.
Somebody
Is-
overlooked
They're
something.
before this board for special permit
Yes,
for the
correct.
water tower. That's, I mean, my
Correct.
understanding is there's no, Aaron, there's no request to change any zoning. I mean, we don't do that, so...
That's correct. It's just a use special permit. From the table of uses, there's no rezoning or zoning amendment required for this process.
Okay.
Okay, so nothing in it will affect anything else?
Nope, it will not affect anybody else's property other than what is or is not approved tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor, in opposition of this petition, in opposition? Ma'am? Please state your name and address for the record, ma'am.
My name is Patricia Callahan. I live at number 116 Van Greenby Road in Lowell, which is the property immediately in front of the Wedge Street Tower. Dan Layeff has been working with me to resolve the issue of the altitude valve releasing water, but I would still have some concerns. Perhaps the engineer can explain it. He said it will be different. Once the altitude valve is repaired, the way the Wedge Street water tower is set up is there will still be this giant release pipe. And that, unfortunately, was directed towards residential properties, not towards the city. So if the altitude valve malfunctions again, it's not just a question that it stops water from entering the tank. Well, it stops water from entering the tank because water now has to be released. In other words, you can't constantly fill the tank, I guess it would crack. So it has to go someplace. It comes out of this release pipe, valve, or whatever you want to call it, and comes onto our property. I had spoken at a previous meeting that basically I had 2 sump pumps. They were still running as of the meeting that I attended July 27th. Now that the altitude valve has been basically turned off, no water is being released, my pumps now are dry, which they should be. We've been in the middle of a lack of rain. So I would hope that when the tower is built on 10th Street, that indeed, that it's designed such that water is not coming onto someone else's property, even due to a malfunction. That we anticipate that mechanical things do malfunction, and we design them in such a way that they don't negatively affect someone else. In addition to that water, I don't know whether it's been discussed, you're building a huge piece of equipment which will take up a sizable footprint. In the Wedge Street Tower, it's not quite as large in the sphere, but it is the same height, and they hot-topped all the way around it. And I have to tell you that when we have these really heavy rainstorms, I'm not talking like 1 or 2 inches, but perhaps 6 inches or more, you have all that rain coming onto this hardened blacktop. We are the property below. The water has to go somewhere, so it spreads across basically the park, because the park is now sod or lawn, whereas you have the water equipment is basically on hardtop. They did put in a drain, but I heard someone refer to the thing as storm drain. Well, basically the water doesn't go anywhere into the city's storm system, because to me it's more like a dry well. In other words, it helps take water off the surface, but it doesn't drain anywhere per se other than into the water table. Water table gets high enough, what happens? My pumps have to go on again. So the Wedge Street Water Tower, I think we should look upon as an experience about what could be improved. Obviously, the tower's there, but I would hope that some thought would be given to drainage issues, not just for this faulty valve type design, but also for drainage on the land when you basically put something that can't be, the water can't go through it, so it has to spread. And so that's another issue that I think should be looked at by the zoning board.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition of this petition, in opposition? Okay, and hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed, and I'll open up to the board for consideration and comment. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could ask a couple of questions.
Sure.
Just to springboard off of the last comment, I had written down here erosion control, which might or might not fit in with this person just mentioned about. Could you, I've looked through the plans, can you just kind of describe the erosion control as it's presented on the plans, please?
Well, the erosion control that I assume you're looking at on the plans is the control that's set up for construction, hay bales, and is that what you're looking at? Yes.
Yep.
So that'll all be in place, during the construction.
Right.
So that any sedimentation won't get into off the site, basically.
And would something like that entertain what this person was just talking about, or is there a different setup that we would be looking at for the drainage issue that this woman's talking about?
Well, again, the drainage for the site is directed towards a catch basin that's in the street. That's how the site has been drained historically. Other than, I guess, there was some problems with it.
Yep.
One of the issues that I'm not surprised historically there was problems with water and ice in the street. The old tank leaked, and that's why it was taken out of service. So.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious if there was anything different that the city was doing in preparation of the new tower going up. As far as, I wrote down security, but I don't really mean security. It looks like it's a chain link fence.
Chain
Is
link
it
fence.
6 foot? Is it, you know what the height of the fence would be?
I believe it's an 8 foot? Yeah,
8 foot,
fence.
and does it also going to have barbed wire on it?
Yes.
Because I know the one in the Highlands does not that it needs it, but I just want to
Well,
double
I'm
check on
sorry.
that.
Yeah, there will be barbed wire.
Okay. So the 1 million gallons the city is putting in there is actually servicing 5 times the amount of people, if I have the numbers straight, versus the Highlands
Yes.
setup. Is that correct?
It's a much bigger area. It services pretty much all of Christian Hill, all of Belvedere, north of Route 38, all the way out to the Tewksbury line, and about 8,000 people in Kenwood. The Kenwood Water District gets all of their water from Lowell, so they'll benefit from this tank also.
And thank you. And the last question I had was, I know in the plans it talked about underground utilities were not identified with the, I guess, the site plan. Are there any underground utilities that we need to be concerned with?
There's underground, there's pipes on the site right
Yep.
now. We're going to replace some of those. There'll be, all the utilities, all the electrical will all be underground, come down from a pole on the street.
To just service this
It
tower?
just-
There's nothing that will impact the neighborhood as far as underground utilities?
No.
To your knowledge? Yep.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Bill. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of clarification, because I'm hearing a lot of the same words, which I think are identifying the same process. I'm hearing blow-off valve, altitude valve, and the like. Are those all referring to the same valve?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, and the purpose of this valve is to release pressure.
Yes.
Now, when that pressure and that water is released on the 10th Street project, that's going to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be draining to the catch basin, or is it?
If the likelihood of that happening is, at 10th Street, is very remote. The station, it's just set up differently. If there was to be an overflow, they have much better control over the tank on 10th Street. So you'd just be able to shut pumps down, and you wouldn't need that. There would be no overflow. They just have much more control, just the way the city water system is set up.
But in the event that would happen, the answer to the question would be it would drain into the catch basin.
That's correct, yes.
In respect to a couple of the comments made earlier, as the water overflowing, that would alleviate this condition into the street, over the stairway and into the street. Is this alleviating that, or was that from the leak? Just want to clarify that water that's going onto the street and freezing.
I assume that there must have been a malfunction or a leak in the tank, and that's what caused the large amount of water that the gentleman was talking about.
Okay. It wasn't because of malfunction in the altitude valve?
For that old tank, it could have been, but there isn't, this new one will not have that.
But that was as a result of the age of that
correct.
valve itself?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vesna, anything? Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the leak in the tank, could that be a result of the old tank?
I'm sure it was.
Right. And how, since this is a new tank, how likely is it's going to be a leak in the tank?
Very unlikely.
Right.
I mean, things can malfunction, but it's very unlikely that there'll be any kind of leak or overflow.
Should there be a leak in the tank, as my colleague stated, and you indicated that that would go to the drainage, and the drain will go to the catch base?
That's correct.
Okay.
Which is where it should go.
All right. With regard to the tree, you indicated that there will be enough tree, you tried to minimize the number of trees, so you spoke of the interiors of the site for the construction. That may be the area that you need to, if need to, cut those trees. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The other things you indicated that you spoken to the neighborhood with regard to the garden. How do you feel about cleaning up and landscape it and work in conjunction with the neighborhood to clean up and make it look like the one in the Highland?
That's exactly what we plan on doing, is meeting with the neighbors.
This tank will surely be enclosed so that kid cannot climb in it or into it, right? I mean,
Well,
in terms of the
yes,
the area will be enclosed, right?
There's a fence around it. The tank does have basically a hatch of a door on it that you can open and actually get inside the tank and get into the piping or whatever is inside the tank. Of course, that's locked. That's all locked.
Right.
They're pretty secure.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, President. Rick, anything?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. We have also, you got a vault up there. You're gonna be changing any of the vaults out, like the Drake vault that's on
The
property?
No, all of the underground piping will likely stay. There was an old pumping station that was there, that's coming out. But all of that vault, I believe that vault you're talking about will stay.
Will stay? Because that
That's
has
in
an
pretty
altitude valve in it also, so is that possibly why that's gonna make its way down?
We won't need that altitude valve.
Okay.
It was because the other tank was much smaller.
Are we gonna remove the stairs? They talk about I see a 12-inch iron drain pipe that drains down towards those stairs which go to Mount Pleasant Street. What are we gonna be doing with that 12-inch drain pipe? Are we trying to re-sculpt the land so it's...
We're going to, what we want to do is leave the site so that it'll drain basically the way it does now, and not change the drainage.
Okay. So there's a possibility of that still pushing water onto that street in the middle of the winter?
That's the way it drains now. It comes down,
and there's no way to hook it up to the storm water?
directly into the,
To help the neighbors out and stuff. I mean, the neighbors are gonna be looking at a pretty tall tower over there.
Yeah. Oh, they are.
Lollipop. I mean, so we're not changing out any of the generators over there, anything like that? All that stuff stays the same?
there won't be any generator at
Move it
that
from
site.
Drake to Lowell, basically. We're taking it out of Drake and putting it
Yes.
in Lowell now.
Yeah.
Drake wanted nothing to do with the new tower?
We talked to Drake about it, we went to the zoning board, and after hearing their comments, the city decided that this is a very important part of their infrastructure, and they decided they wanted complete control over it, and so they wanted it to be moved to Lowell.
All right, I'd like you to see it work, see if the city can work with the neighbors so they don't get flooded out and
Oh,
so on. Obviously, it's been a problem with the ice and the water up there. If we could, put some better drainage up there, do whatever we have to do so
Okay.
the neighbors are satisfied, and then work with the
Yeah.
the water department to get a passive park up there. Might be a good idea. I mean, start using the property.
Yeah.
Be a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good-sized site, and I live up in that area. I remember when that whole site was clear, except for the larger trees around the perimeter, and that's what some of the people up there have asked if the city could do. Just clear some of the smaller trees, leave the perimeter trees there to kind of shield the site and the tank a little bit, and then just lumen seed it. That was one proposal that someone asked us to look into.
I'd like to see it look even better up there for the neighbors and stuff in the neighborhood. How does this work in conjunction with the other tank that's buried in the hillside?
The water actually is pumped out of that tank and then pumped into this.
And pumped into this tank for
Onto this
pressure?
tank. Yeah. The people that are at the higher elevations, they can't be serviced by the water on those buried tanks. Those tanks service all but the 12, 13,000 people in the city. So those larger tanks on Richard Street service about 90,000 people. in the city.
And I know there was a comment, there's just one more question. There was
Sure.
a comment about old pipes and whether the pipes are gonna handle this pressure when it start pushing out of this tank.
It'll actually make things better for the pressure. The way the system works now is back up a little bit. The way that the majority of the city works, the water system works, is water is pumped from the water treatment plant at basically a constant rate. And the water is pumped from the treatment plant through the whole city, and it fills those buried tanks on Richard Street. The level in those tanks fluctuates every day. And that's how a typical water system works. Since the high service area doesn't work that way, the way that works is it has to, because they didn't have a tank, or they did have a tank, but it was too small. You basically have to pump to demand. So you would have to, for example, at this time of night, people are just starting to basically slow down their use of water. But prior to that, 4 or 5 o'clock, those pumps would have to come on, and the pressure would have to raise substantially to supply all of the people in the area. With the tank, it evens out that pressure. It actually reduces the pressure in the pipes, which is why this is what a typical water system has.
All right, those are the questions I have. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Bill, Rick, was anything a condition that you?
Well, I'd like to see them work with the neighbors over there, so we can at least satisfy some of their needs. A park, again, try to mediate the water problems. I mean, I know if I lived in the neighborhood, I wouldn't like to look at the tank, but I need the tank for water and for fire services, obviously. So I think the city should work with the neighbors over there to try to give them something. That's what I'd like to see.
I know that's what the city plans to do.
So do you think do you want to make that part of a condition?
Make that part of a condition that they,
All right. Sure, ma'am. Why don't you come up to the podium? The public hearing is closed, but I will let you ask the question because...
Lisa Ross, 19 Brooks Road. Our current street is all eroded from the old tank, and I was wondering if there's any way they could repair that. Because with the winter coming, it's almost, it's all rocky and it's all eroded.
Is your street in Lowell?
It's Lowell, Drake, yep.
Okay. I just know that if Lowell has no...
Lowell, that area.
Okay. I can ask them, but I don't think they're going to have an answer. Sir? I know there are a list of streets that are basically going to be prepared. Are you aware of?
I think that's, I know that the DPW and the city engineer has plans for paving streets. If that's I would think one of the streets that's in bad condition, that would be on the list to be paved. But I'm not aware that there's any plans to do that.
Okay.
And I'm also just speaking of the section that's in Lowell. I don't know what the plans are for.
Right. Do you agree that part of that street was eroded due to the drainage of the water?
I know that the street is not in very good condition. I do not know whether it was caused by anything to do with the old tank.
Okay.
I just don't know. It may have been. I just don't know.
Okay. Ma'am, could you step up one more? Did you experience a lot of...
The old tank was right directly in our backyard. Every spring, it would overflow, and it would erode. It would come into our yard. We would call the city. Somebody would come out. I don't know what they would do. And it also runs off, just like Mr. Snell spoke about the ice. It creates water, and there's ice at the bottom of the road. Brox Road enters 10th Street, which is quite a busy road if you slid out into traffic. There is quite a bit of ice there, and it is drainage from the old tank. We haven't had it because the tank hasn't run in a few years, but the street is all eroded.
And what is the distance of the street linear-wise? Is it, you talking about 300 feet, 800 feet, 1,000 feet?
I would say 300.
So about the length of a football field about?
Yeah, probably. Well,
Okay.
because it is a runoff, there's a hill there. the tank is built on a hill, and there's homes that are built, you know, in like a, below the hill. So all of the neighbors experience water in their yard.
Okay. Okay, thank you, ma'am. The only thing I'm thinking is to suggest a condition that the city look into expediting the repair of Brock Street as it relates to the city of Lowell. Any thoughts on that? Aaron, is that something that's, I know as a board, we're allowed to put any reasonable condition on. I just don't want to, I know these gentlemen don't have an answer for me because that's not within their authority, but are you aware of anything like that that we could do?
It is up to the board. The board can, like you said, apply reasonable conditions to address concerns or impacts of
Right.
proposed use. I don't know of any improvements to the capital plan. I'm just not privy to the day-to-day decisions made on that, where the DPW is looking at making street repairs or resurfacing. I just don't know where that is on that kind of list of to-dos.
Okay.
But it's certainly within the purview of the board.
Mr. Leff?
Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Ross certainly has legitimate reason to have a concern over the year after year when that altitude valve did blow, and it was problematic during certain conditions. I think that it'd be fair, from our perspective, to go up there and analyze what possibly could have eroded from the water damage and make a legitimate effort to try and do some type of repair there. I don't know from a legal point how far we could go, or what was the exact cause of, 300 feet, the length of a football field doesn't seem like that's realistic that the flooding caused.
Right.
But I certainly feel that if necessary, we can go up and do an analysis and perhaps a change order to this contract. There's plenty, if there's monies available, do something reasonable. But again, if you're going to be going into Drake it, I don't know.
No, I mean, I think our authority would stop at the Lowell Drake line. But my thought is that these folks seem to have some reasonable concerns.
Absolutely.
They live right there that, greatly impacted by
Absolutely.
what's going to happen. And certainly they're going to benefit by it too, but I can definitely see their concerns. I did see that street. I couldn't tell where it ended, but it definitely was a street that absolutely needed repairing. I see the city's repairing streets all over the city's repairing streets all over Lowell. Some streets, are worse than others, but this was definitely, worse than some I've seen them repairing. So, maybe we'll make that a condition that the city look into repairing that street, from wherever it is into the Lowell Drake line, and then the city can either work with you or do it on their own, or, to me, I think they could probably just move Brock Street to the top of their list, and, maybe it gets done before the end of the season where they can do it, or maybe it gets done at the beginning of next year, or maybe it coincides with the completion of the tank, but I think it's, a reasonable request.
Absolutely, yeah, but I think it's more logical for us to do something within this project, and the monies within this project. There is going to be site work, there is going to be hot topping and bituminous. So again, I certainly can't speak for the engineering department on how they're going to move streets on a list, but I feel confidently that there is going to be money there, that if we have to make any improvements that'll be necessary. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page of what we understand what is reasonable, and how we can work together with the neighborhoods and absolutely do that. Again, I strongly don't feel that it eroded 300 feet of a street.
Right.
That'd have to be some pretty heavy flow over a constant period of time. But anything that's adjacent, the proximity right to the tank, that's absolutely understandable.
Okay, and what about, now that you're up here, what about the issue with improving, I think, Rick, your condition would be what?
Drainage?
Drainage, try to improve the drainage for the neighbors up there.
Sure, I think that's a reasonable request. As Ms. Callahan said up at Wedge Street, she had legitimate concerns when you get the heavy overflow and the runoff of the altitude valve. It has been problematic. Timing is everything, I guess, and this past couple of months it's been an issue, but we'll certainly do our best to divert that to an area where it's going to go in a catch basin or away from properties.
But also too, Mr. Chairman, we have to, with the stormwater, well, we're taking all the stormwater out of the sewers and we're doing all that
Right.
work throughout the whole city. I don't know if that has been done up there or when it's gonna be done up there, so I don't wanna be spending money for bituminous if next year they're just gonna be ripping it up.
We can work with Mark Young with that, that's easy enough
that's
to
what I'm
find
looking
out
for,
what the
is-
schedule is, or if he has any plans up there.
To work hand in hand, maybe we could get some better drainage and stuff up there also, so maybe it'll work out for both of us.
Okay. All right.
Well, since I haven't written them down, Mr. Chairman, if you have.
Has anybody written them down?
Basically, I would phrase the conditions that the city work with the neighborhood on their problems up there with drainage, passive park, and the runoff through the stairs during the wintertime. Again, it's drainage, so basically to work hand in hand with the neighborhood up there to try to help these people out because of what we're trying to put up there.
And I'd also want a condition that they look into repaving and repairing Brock Street to the Drake line. Okay, I need a motion. Anybody want to make a motion?
Let's Rick make the motion. So you get the condition, right?
Yeah, I think we're talking about a motion with the condition that the city look into repairing the drainage issues that relate to the pre-existing condition up there, and repairing and/or repaving portions of Brock Street to the Drake line.
It's a mouthful.
So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that, motion to approve with the following conditions, that the city work with the neighbors up there on the drainage problems, work on making that a passive park up there if it's possible, also looking to repave Brock Street up to the Drake line if it's possible, and if it doesn't go hand in hand with our stormwater management plan, that we try to work up there with the neighbors again. That's my motion.
Okay, need a second?
Second the motion.
And then a roll call, Aaron, please.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with condition.
Chairman Gary?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Noon?
Approve with condition.
Mr. Bienvenu?
Approve with conditions. I'm sorry. Okay. Sir, you've been unanimously approved with the conditions. The conditions will be spelled out in writing, and hopefully somebody can coordinate that with whoever they have to in the city to have that done. Thank you very much, folks. You could just come up and sign this plan. Give that to that one. Okay, the final petition of the night is ZB 2010, number 31, a special permit and variance request. The applicant is Stephen Beati, 27 4th Street, to convert a former firehouse to a 3-unit family dwelling with insufficient dimensional requirements, front garage setback, landscaping, and parking issues pursuant to 5.1, 5.31, 6.1.10 of the zoning ordinance, and I think we had some comments from the planning board on this one. The planning board recommended unanimous approval, incorporating the conditions that they set forth in the site plan, that are conditions numbered 1 through 9. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Jim Jazokis, architect with Paul Davies and Associate Architects, representing Stephen Biotti and others, and I believe it's Firehouse Development LLC. Recently, my clients have purchased this property from the city through a bidding process with the condition that that the firehouse be converted to low-income housing for the next 15 years, overseen by the Lowell Housing Authority. And we are currently proposing to convert the 13,000 plus square feet of building into 3 residential units, townhouse style. Therefore, each unit will have its own entrance, its own exit, as well as its own yard. So it gives a sense of more of a ownership versus any common space. I believe this is the best use of the property. And obviously, where this is a firehouse on a small lot, there are a plethora of setbacks and dimensional requirements and everything else that are not meeting current zoning in that zone. So we're before you, and I believe with the help of Aaron, we'll get through all those points. Currently, there are garages in the front, close to the street, so that's one setback. The left and right side of the building conform to the at least 10 feet, but it's not a total of 25 feet. It's 24.7 inches and some change. The rear setback, there is the ratio of land area per dwelling unit. Just go through these. There is also the usable open space per dwelling unit. There's the lot percentage coverage is 48% versus 35%. The landscape frontage is closer to 32%, but I think we just increased that with one of the conditions from the planning board. Another 5 feet or so of the frontage will be landscaped area, so that will increase, but still well under the 50%. The 2 parking spaces to Unit C, we've had to reduce by 6 inches instead of 9 feet wide. They're 8.5 feet wide each, and the setback on that side from that property line, instead of proposing, I believe we're required to have 3 feet, we're proposing 6 inches. Let's see, I believe that's everything. I actually live in the neighborhood, so, and I'm in favor of this myself because of the building needs to be preserved and needs to be saved, and I think this is a good economic way for the city to do it. I've worked with the developer, the builders before. They did the builder recently developed a burnout on the corner of Methuen Street in Aberdeen that was a 4-unit mess, and now it's almost a showpiece of the neighborhood. And that was also converted from a 4-family to a 3-family. And I'll address any questions. My clients are also here to address any concerns as well.
Okay. Anybody here speaking in favor of this petition? In favor? Mark?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, members, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, for the record, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. Wish to speak in favor of this. I spoke in favor of this for the planning board at their meeting last week. This is a win-win situation. It's an historic building. This is going to go on the tax rolls. This is a great reuse of a building, and it really will be a showplace for that neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Mark. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Okay, and hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody here wishing to speak in opposition? Anybody in opposition to this petition? And hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. We'll open up to the board for consideration. Bill, any comments?
Just a couple, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned the parking spots, C1 and 2.
Yes.
The reduction of the parking space, is that due to where the telephone pole is? Is that kind of cut off to get that second car in, or what's the reason for?
We could actually increase it. We just didn't know how many variances we could possibly dump on you guys. We could skim it over to next to the building a little more, gain that extra foot, only ask for a variance for 2 feet setback from the structure as opposed to 3 feet from the structure, and have the 9-foot parking spaces. It doesn't, in my opinion, matter. 8.5 feet wide for a residential parking space right off the street seems adequate for just about any use.
Yeah, because actually this morning I had asked, I sent a request to Aaron. I wasn't able to determine where the lot lines were between this property and the one next door, and it looks
Very
like...
difficult for us too. It took the engineer a good, it felt like 6 months to nail down the property, only because the city has owned it for a very long time, and there's been very little good records kept on where the property was and where the boundaries were and how big this property was. I mean, the city just wasn't taxing itself, so it would just let this thing go. So yeah, we have established that.
Because it looks
what
like
you're seeing
the other property's building is literally right on the
close.
line.
And that has been a concern of the planning board that was brought up regarding their safety and their means of egress. According to the building code, we are required to make sure that we're not stopping any safe means of egress out of the abutter's property. There was talk about putting a fence along there, we still would like to put a fence along that side. But if it does, in fact, affect their ability to get out of the building safely, then we need to adhere to that.
Yep. The only other thing I had, Mr. Chairman, was when I looked at the property, there's a wooden fence located in the far right-hand, I guess where you have Unit C yard. There's a wooden fence there, and then on the opposite side, looks like a chain link.
Yes.
Are both of those coming down and something new is going up? First of all, they owned by the city. I didn't know who owned the fences.
Right. Let me just ask the owners. Do you know who owns the fences, actually owns? Right, so this is your, right, okay. They'll all be replaced? Yeah, the fences were put up by the city, so it is now under the control of my clients, and it is planned to have them removed and replaced.
Okay, good. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. It looks like a great plan, and I'd fully endorse it. Thank you.
Okay, did you want that as a condition possibly, Bill, to remove and replace the fences?
I think they talked about it at the, did they talk about it at the planning board?
Yeah, they made that a quick condition as well, so, I mean.
I just wanted to make sure what they were talking about was the same thing I was saying, so I think that's already covered under the conditions.
What we'll do is probably just incorporate all 9 of these. Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think it's a long overdue project. I think it's going to benefit not only the neighborhood, but the city, maintaining the historical value of the firehouse. It's something that I strongly believe this neighborhood needs. It's been abandoned for a while, and I do support and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just want to mention that as an architect, I've been in a lot of buildings, and I've climbed through a lot of burnouts and towers and messes all over the place, and this was one of the worst I've seen in a long time. Given another 5 years, we would have lost this building. The tower itself, when they opened the doors, had waist-high deep of pigeon crap, and of the 15 years I've climbed through buildings, I've never had an incident, and this was the first time I actually went through the floor. And that's why you're seeing the construction now, that they are actually securing the building, and that is part of what I feel is a good part of this project, is preserving the building.
Okay, thank you. Besna?
Thank you, sir. Quick question, actually. This is a historical site. Did you go before the historical board already and get the approval?
No, there is no requirement for that, but we already have been talking to Stephen Stoll, and I believe one of the conditions of our, of the planning board agreement is that we continue to work with Stephen Stoll and preserve the exterior, as well as we're going to provide a brass dedication plate, and we'll work with the city on dedicating this maybe to a fallen fireman or what have you. So that is part of the condition.
It's a great idea. I also concur with my fellow board members. It's a good use for a vacant firehouse, and a great work you put together here. Tribute to you and the petitioners, and I'm in favor of this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes, to you, Mr. Chairman. I was out there this afternoon, and things appear to be coming along great out there. And really, it's refreshing to see. I'm in the neighborhood quite frequently. I did see how dilapidated it was, and it's really, really coming around. So that's outstanding. So if I may ask, now, what's the breakdown of the units in the condominiums? How many bedrooms per unit, may I ask?
Sure. Currently, we're proposing the front unit, the one that has the garages as parking, to have the most bedrooms. We're utilizing the 12 rooms that were the sleeping quarters upstairs, and we're reducing that to 5 bedrooms for the front unit. The unit to the left rear will have 4 bedrooms, and the unit to the right rear will have 3 bedrooms.
Okay, so you have 3, 4, and a 5. Okay.
Yeah, and each unit will be, I mean, with the 13,000 square feet, they're going to be very comfortable living indoors, and giving them the private yard that they have. I feel very comfortable with that amount of bedrooms.
Yes, I think it's adequate considering the size of the structure there, no doubt. But I think it's a great project. I'm going to agree with my colleagues. It's certainly conducive to what's in the neighborhood. I mean, you're surrounded by multis to either side of you, across the street. There's no one here in opposition, so I think it's a great project, and I'm glad Mr. Beatty took it on with his colleagues, so I support it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Corey. And Rick?
Yeah, yes, to you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with my fellow board members. It's long overdue. The only question I have is who's going to be responsible for the maintenance over there, the lawn, the trees, the snow? Is Mr. Beatty going to be responsible, or is because...
I don't think Steve knows how to operate a lawnmower, but I'm sure we'll get someone out there that can utilize and maintain the property. It is under the Lowell Housing Authority's jurisdiction, so this has to be maintained, as well as the idea of giving everybody their own use yard. It does tend to create pride in where you live, and therefore they tend to take care of their own. But yes, there'll definitely be a maintenance plan in place.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for, obviously, because what we're going to be doing over there, it'd be nice to make sure it doesn't, this hard work doesn't go to naught, you know? That's my only questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. My only thought is that I'm looking at the conditions from the planning board. It looks like they pretty thoroughly conditioned everything that we were thinking about or mentioned, so I'd be comfortable approving it with incorporating these conditions into ours, so they have to do them anyway.
Yes, I'm certainly in agreement with you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to commend the planning board as well. I think they did a great job with detail, and I know the petitioner is going to do his due diligence. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the following condition, that we adopt all the conditions set forth by the planning board.
Second the motion.
Okay, and roll call. Aaron, please.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Gary?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Noon?
Approve with condition.
Mr. Bailey?
Approve with conditions.
Okay, so you've been unanimously approved with the conditions set forth from the planning board. They'll be incorporated into our decision. And as long as you abide by those, you should be all set. We do need to have to come up here and sign the plan and hand it to Aaron. You should be all set. Good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, do we have any other business?
No, we do not, Mr. Chairman. That being said, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.